What does it take to have a creative career? Talent? Yeah, probably. Passion? Absolutely. But what about business savvy? Is the world of arts education overlooking a key component to a creative career? Would you go to an accountant who couldn't manage his own time? What about an attorney who couldn't get her billing system right? Adam Tutor of San Antonio Soundgarden wants to teach young people there's more to a music career than just music. He's introducing them to the business of creativity. Welcome to BexarCast. I'm Randy Langford, and this is BexarCast, a weekly interview with business, political, education, and nonprofit leaders. We're examining the relationships between all four and how each one benefits from the success of the other three. Adam Tutor is at his best when music, spirit, and imagination flow through him, uniting hearts and expressing joy through the eyes of love. While his journeys as a musician, educator, and community organizer have taken him across the world, he's laying roots in San Antonio as the executive director of San Antonio Soundgarden, a nonprofit organization building an educational pipeline for music. Adam is also an active music educator and mindfulness musician working with humans of every rhythm. Adam, thanks for joining me.
A pleasure, Andy. Thanks for having me on, brother.
I'm glad to have you. Your background at San Antonio Garden is San Antonio Soundgarden is one of my favorites. It's a program close to my heart, and that your mission is very much like what we're trying to do with BexarFest by giving students a chance to explore media, whether it's visual or music or writing or any kind of media. But you're more of a teacher than I am. I kind of take a hands-off attitude, and you're in the trenches. So let me go down that road a little bit. Tell me, just give me a 1 minute overview of what's the goal of San Antonio Soundgarden. Tell me what it's about.
Sure, yeah. So San Antonio Soundgarden is a 501c3 here in San Antonio, and we are working to build a music education pipeline. And a music education pipeline means that we are connecting students from the time they come into a fuller understanding of what music is around middle school. Let's say they want to make a career out of music, and that we're giving them the tools, the resources, the knowledge, and the belief systems necessary to progress in a life in the music industry, eventually being able to lead that life as a career when they are older. So it's teaching them music productions, teaching them audio engineering, it's teaching them music business, music marketing. We're not really on the technical side of things as far as like performance, so we don't teach them how to perform the music, but we give them the opportunities to do so. We provide them the skill sets to actually create that and generate revenue from that. So right. We are making sure that, you know, we can do this and let go of the starving artist mentality and
Absolutely.
Really make it into a thriving artist mentality. So
absolutely. You were part of our panel last year on the business of creativity, where we went down that road a little bit, where we're trying to show students that you can absolutely have a creative career, but understand that it's a business.
Sure.
You need to know how to manage your affairs just like any other business person. That's very important to me, in that we don't just throw kids out into the world with, here, I want to be a musician, but I have no idea where to start or no idea how to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, we find that our kids really, what we learned in San Antonio is there's not a shortage of passion. There's not a shortage of talent.
Oh, no.
You know, not a shortage of creative energy that wants to be dedicated to these type of endeavors. There's been a lack of infrastructure,
right,
for those musicians, miseducation, misinformation on how to do things. And so we really made an effort to say, here are the possibilities, create partnerships that, you know, make that viable within high schools, middle schools, and then anybody that has a captive audience of teens across
right.
the city.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you take an approach very much like what we do at BexarFest, is in that we put this opportunity in front of students. We make them aware of, there's this opportunity for you to experiment and to explore. And they just respond in these unbelievable ways. It's just remarkable what they come up with, because they're fearless. They have no sense of fear. I'll try it. It'll either work or it won't, and nobody died.
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
value in your position, from your perspective? What's the value of giving kids that chance to just explore?
Yeah, there's so many ways to answer that question. Let me sit with that just for a second.
I kind of take it from the perspective of a buffet. Here's a buffet of foods. Some you've had, some you haven't, some you've never experienced.
Yeah.
Take a bite. Try the asparagus. You may not like it, but give it a shot.
Yeah, we really, we want to show them that there's no difference between what they're doing and what, the person who has 1 million plays on Spotify is doing, as far as like their gift. The things that they're creating sound just like this.
Right.
They just haven't learned how to do that yet at that level. And that you can, if you dedicate yourself, then that's a reality for you. And so when we present that and we show them all the tools, and here's the technology and here's how you use it, and say, we believe in you. This is a possibility. Here are these people showing you, teaching you how to do this, and they've made a career out of this. And what greater joy could there be than doing what your heart says you want to do for your life, take care of yourself and the ones that you love. And so this is a possibility. And so we believe that with our whole hearts. And when they see that, and we speak to them as if they are the next best thing, that they can do what they're doing with a sense of excellence, and give them that, they're teaching us,
Right.
what they can create. And they're teaching us how to continue to improve so we can reach more people and more people. And when the students see that, then their game transforms incredibly as well. They step it up because they see, oh, here's how hard I have to work. Here's the potential if I do that. And then they have, one of our girls she's 13. She got her first single out on Spotify, and so these are the things that happen when you ask the universe for these tools, and hey, I need help. I can't do this by myself. Someone help me. And that's, we hear that call, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree. So San Antonio Soundgarden has been in Bear Fest 3 years now, for all 3 years that it's existed. You were one of the first people to engage. You were partnered with Antonian in 2018, with East Central in 2019, and here in 2020, you're partnering with Cole High School. So you've had a private school, a public school, and now a school on a military base. What's it been like partnering with kids to create media?
Yeah, it's really amazing to see the lifestyle that they live outside of the classroom, right? When you get to view them and their talent and their ideas outside of that context. Because what happens in a classroom is, because we do workshops in classrooms and stuff like that, and we love it. And the negative side of that is they're still in a school setting.
Right.
So there's a little bit of restriction. They don't feel as free. They're maybe not themselves yet. And so you don't get all the juice that you may get in another environment, right? And so the beauty of what BexarCast does and provides, and getting to work with that, is we get to see these students as professionals, which is what they are. Right. A lot of the students are working at a really high level and producing at a really high level. Some of them don't have, not all those students are blessed with these amazing production studios and all these fancy cameras and all these kind of things. And so seeing what they can do just on their own time, on their own dime, with the tools that they have, with their own creativity, really goes a long way. That's what I'm noticing. This year, it's a different, it's a more DIY. The kids are more involved as far as creating the reality. There's not as much resources and these kind of things as the past schools we worked with had, not in a negative or positive way,
right?
But just got to see, here's what they're going to be able to create with what they have, just at their own, from their own home studios and their own creative ideas. And so there's less dependence upon the school at that point, and which I really think is of value, because then once you really decide, I really want to dedicate myself to this, and you can do that on a nickel and dime budget,
right?
And that's what's possible when you actually go to a place that has all the resources. You work with people that know what they're doing at a deeper level. And you say, I've already done this with just a basic camera. Now I have all this stuff, endless possibilities, you know? So it's really been a joy to see the different mindset they take in that.
Yeah. If I can make this video on my phone, think what I could do if I had a real camera.
100%. And all those things are possible. And that's what, you know, like we have ideas of how these things are supposed to be done. Technology and entrepreneurship and all these things are changing the rules.
Sure.
On that. And so it's really awesome to see how the kids respond to that.
I'm blown away every year by what the kids create. And you've been involved in this as long as I have. So you've seen 3 different classes go through the process. And every year it just amazes me at what high school kids with nominal equipment and almost no experience are able to create. But you interact with students more regularly than me, so you're probably not as surprised as I am by their capabilities, that you've seen them go through this before. Given that, what surprises you the most about what the way kids respond to this, the way they respond to this artistic opportunity?
Yeah, there's a sense of appreciation. There's a sense of solidarity in what they're doing, and that they're like working on this mission, right? So like I'm thinking of last year, and like, you know, we got everything, you know, organized and coordinated for this big unveiling of the program, and they were locked and loaded, ready to go like early in the morning. They had all their gear set up. They had the questions they needed to ask. They had their lighting. They had everything necessary. And it was like clockwork, you know, at that point in time. They were super professional, really engaged, really excited about it. And then, you know, did the work to put it together in a super high quality way. Like this is a video that we would pay $1,000 for, you know, like.
I know you have it on the front page of your website.
Yeah, it's on the front page of our website. It's been the value for us. I share it anytime I send an email out to a new partner. You know, I say, hey, this is our work that we do in schools, and hey, it was done by high school students, and this is the value of these types of engagements. And so definitely love experiencing that in a real world setting, because that's where the magic happens, and that's what it's going to be like when they're outside of high school and college. This is the environment that you're going to be creating in. So here's a taste of that.
That's interesting that you went down that road, because your role at BexarCast is different than your role when you're teaching.
Sure.
Instead of that teacher-student relationship, now it's client-vendor relationship. And this is the first time a lot of these kids have been in that situation where they're dealing with adults on a peer-to-peer level rather than parent, child, student, teacher.
Mm-hmm.
How is that dynamic different? Do you see the kids respond to that in a different way?
Yeah, you know, what I mentioned earlier about the classroom environment, you know, and that's going to shift their natural flow of energy. And also my experience is that they feel heard and they feel seen. And that's the greatest thing, right? So if you're a great teacher, you can be in a classroom as long as you see your students and you hear them, and you know that you can talk to them as adults and as forces to be reckoned with in this world. If you don't, then they're not going to respond to you. You know, same thing applies. You can be out in the real world teaching them with that same mindset, and they're going to tune out, you know? So what I've learned, you know, from my personal experience is I try to do it the same regardless, because that's my mentality, right? And what I found works, and because I don't see a difference between them and adults, you know what I mean? So when I do that, my observation is that they just like, you know, we're buddies now, and they kind of slowly lose this, oh, I have to behave this certain way around this person because he's 30 or whatever, you know, or he's called Mr. Tutor or something, you know. It's like, all that goes away, and it's just like, I'm just a dude, and I was in your shoes not that long ago, and I see you as an equal, and then magic happens, and so then we get to create even more amazing things because they trust me and they can share those deeper ideas of what they want to do.
And that's an interesting perspective, because I've had teachers, when the kids come back to class, that have seen a change in their students. That when they start the process, when you first find out, oh, we're going to be paired with San Antonio Soundgarden, that'll be fun. We'll get to make a video. We'll get to do something outside the classroom. We'll get to do something unusual or out of our normal everyday experience. Right. And then when the kids actually meet the nonprofit and meet the people they're going to be dealing with and understand the issues that they're addressing, and come to the realization that these are real people with real needs that are really counting on us to tell their story, we need to take this more seriously. And it's almost like flipping a switch, that the kids, they step up. They suddenly realize that we have a responsibility here, and we're gonna show the world what we're capable of. Have you seen that?
100%. Yeah. So I was just thinking about, like I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with Antonian after we made the video for the first round, but for last year with East Central, it was really incredible because it led to, we're now in conversations with them to come in and do our program. Nice. At a deeper level next fall, so we're still in conversations with it. But I've done several, production workshops out there since that time, and the kids have just like totally caught on fire with it. And several of the students who were, one of them made the soundtrack for the video, and he's, producing his own music now and all this kind of stuff. And he has been, he was already doing it. But these kids are really connected and they're really engaged, invested. And if they hadn't put in that energy, right, and built that solid relationship, and we had that camaraderie, you never know if you're going to work with these people again. And so, general philosophy of life is, be kind, just like,
well, you mentioned a minute ago that you put this message out to the universe that I want to do this and I need help and I want the right people to come into my orbit. Mm-hmm. The second half of that statement is, when the universe responds, you better be ready. And so
to receive it too. Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the first time a lot of these kids have engaged with a nonprofit. Some of them have, but most of them haven't. Mm-hmm. And so when they don't know what to expect. And what we did when we designed the festival was we made it a point to pair the kids with nonprofits in an ongoing way. You're not there for an hour, or you're not even there for a day. You're there for weeks. You're engaged with this nonprofit for weeks, and you get an in-depth understanding not only of what they do, but why they do it. And they don't really know what to expect. The kids don't know what to expect, and they don't know what questions to ask. What question do you get most from the students, and is it different from the question you get from other people?
Yeah. For the students, they want to understand how this relates to them, because, with us specifically, we're offering programs for teens.
For students, right.
For students, yeah. And so they want to understand this as a distinction from something they may already have, So do I have to be, a lot of it is like, do I have to be a musician to be a part of this? And the answer is 100% no.
Right.
That's like a common myth, is that you already have to be like, singing all the time or play the guitar or whatever it is. And that's the opposite, actually, mindset of what we want to get into, is that, sure, it's great if you have some skill sets and we want to help you record your music and build, a mindset and lifestyle for that. And if you don't know what's going on yet, this is what we're here to teach you.
Here's your chance to find out.
There's a great percentage, I don't know what it is, but there's a great percentage of people in the music industry who can't play a lick on any instrument or sing a note, but they're there behind the scenes, and they're turning the knobs and the switches, and they're getting you the gigs, and they're making sure you get the money that you deserve and all these kind of things, right? Like, if you want to play for the Spurs, you don't have to play, work for the Spurs. You don't have to play basketball at any level, right? You have a million different options. It's the same thing for music. So that's kind of a common misconception that we get both from, this context as well as just in the general public.
That's interesting, because, again, going back to why we created BearFest in the first place and what it set out to do was, we came to find out that a lot of students think that everybody who works at a nonprofit organization is a volunteer. But the
Right.
only people working in the community service are volunteers.
Right.
And they don't realize you can be an accountant and have a passion for kids, or to your point, you can be a technician and have a career in the music industry.
Sure. Sure.
And it's interesting that we're again rowing in the same direction, giving kids that understanding of there's more to this opportunity than being on the front lines. There's people behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, you need the creatives, you need the right and left brain all together in the same team. Yeah.
As a nonprofit director, how important is having the assets that come out of Bearfest, the video, the audio, the graphic design, the posters, all of that comes out of Bearfest? How do you use those tools? I know you're particularly good at it because I just mentioned that you have your video on your website, but there are a lot of nonprofits that just don't have the resources to create what these kids are creating. And it, again, we wanted it to be of value to the nonprofit. You tell me, is this of any value to you?
Yeah, I mean, from, the qualitative and the quantitative, we talked a lot about the qualitative value, and now you're speaking more about so there's immeasurable qualitative value from a human to human relationship, right, and the chance to engage in this, create this program at the school you work with, or, serve those students and have that message shared. So on a deeper level in the long term, I think you can hardly measure the value of it. On a more direct, concrete level, we, as a burgeoning nonprofit, we've been around for several years, but we haven't had a steady income stream. And so we don't make big investments because we have to plan ahead for that a lot, right?
Sure.
And so, but to be able to get, revenue coming in, we have to be able to share our message, right. And so there was a moment in time where we didn't have that yet. And there was a struggle. And so as soon as these videos started coming in, and especially this one in particular, because it captured what we do in the school in a really powerful way. So this is a program that is becoming like integral to who we are. And it's going to be a vast portion of our revenue for the year. I'm having to make cold calls, I'm sending out emails to coordinators for the fine arts department of NEISD and all these, the people who are calling the shots, and saying, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's a video that captures this as it looks in the classroom with testimony from the students and the administration, and here's how it works, And when they see that, it may not always lead to a conversion, right? But at least it plants a seed and it helps them see clearly what's going on. Because I can't describe that with words. I can send the most beautifully written email. It's not going to mean anything unless you see it from the students themselves. So when I show that at a presentation as well, like the response is overwhelming because they see that this works. I have to back that up then, right? Work, to make sure that it's followed through. But it definitely plants a really awesome seed. And if I didn't have that, let's just put it this way, my marketing approach would be like one-dimensional, and now it has 3 dimensions, right? And so that's incredibly valuable, and definitely has led to some conversions and some new relationships. Good. As people see what we're doing, and so and more to come. We're going to keep sending it out, and it's going to, this video we're working on now is going to tell a different story than the one that we told last year, right. And it's going to capture more of a student perspective of a true musician and like her behind the scenes look at her life. And so then that shows the value to the parents. And so, these are things that we're working towards. Who are we missing on the marketing scene? How do we continue to grow our work and reach more children and expand throughout San Antonio? And we have to tell different stories. We have to reach different audiences, and videos are an incredible way to do that. So invaluable is the answer.
I'm glad you're getting some usage out of it. I'd hate to think 100%. That this was just an exercise in filling up a shelf somewhere.
No, yeah, I just like hanging out with you and having lunch at India.
There's that too. Too. And then premiere night is a pretty big deal too. That's
no doubt about it.
That's a pretty good night. Well, Adam, thanks so much. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for your insight. Thanks for what you're doing for these kids. And I'll see you soon.
Randy, I just want to say, gratitude for what you're doing, man. I see, from working with this for the past 3 years, I've been able to see the evolution of your idea and it's nascent, and just continuing to, even though last year was awesome, how can we make it bigger and better each year and reach more kids? And I see how tirelessly you're working to expand that vision and to look at more people. So kudos to what you're doing, man. I'm honored to be a part of it.
I'm glad to have you. Take care.
We'll see you soon.
So long.
Congrats.